Hello and welcome back to another Meme History. Today we will be exploring the French Revolution, a period of social upheaval sparked by Enlightenment ideas of equality, freedom, and liberty. So naturally, this wonderful period of peace is one of the most violent and bloodiest pieces of world history. But before your heads roll from all this information, we have to understand the Enlightenment. Luckily, this is pretty easy. Think of the Renaissance and the Reformation, but replace the literature and the learning of ancient Greek and Roman ideas with fairly new concepts of what government actually means. Mix that in with a fairly educated population and teach them how to ask the question, why? Why is there government? Why are there rules? Why is there a government that's actually needed? Why do my hands not fit inside Pringle cans? Enlightenment's questions all of these things. Enlightenments had their own reasons for all of these things. They had their own theories. They had their own questions. They had their own answers to these questions. And many of them achieved fame through their ideas. These Enlightenment players were like John Locke, who believed people were willingly joining societies and gave up their power for the protection of property. Thomas Hobbes, who believed that people just were generally terrible people, and if you didn't join society, you would not be able to manage your evil behavior and would just end up killing everybody. Montesquieu believed that there was a separation of power, and it was the best form of it to have it separated. Voltaire believed in the freedom of speech. And Rousseau, well, he believed that in the state of nature, people were all happy and that the government sucks. The Enlightenment also made people question what music was, gender rights, economics. The days of working on the farm for a sheep and half a chicken until you die were gone. People were making money, reading, actually holding jobs that involved some form of math. Ew. With people thinking and many more asking why to everything, the world was poised for a revolution, which it got in the form of America versus England. When America won and solidified itself as the only nation to start and form around Enlightenment ideas of government, people started to think more. And unfortunately, for one royal family, this constant questioning of government and rules turns violent. Onwards to the French Revolution. To set the stage, we have France, a powerful nation on the verge of total economic collapse, thanks to a nasty defeat from the British in the French and Indian War. A rather dim king and financially backing America during their bid for freedom has left France in economic turmoil. Why? Because America did not and is not going to pay back their loan that they got from France. On top of this, there's a really brutal winter that has just decimated the crops, and the peasants are tired of paying taxes, while the church and noblemen only pay very little. Thanks to having no say in the government, the peasants can't do anything about it. Now hungry, angry at paying taxes, and being so close to the birthplace of Enlightenment, the French people are upset. To make matters worse, the king, Louis, calls a meeting for the nation, in which it's agreed upon that anyone in the middle class or peasant class has to pay more money. Why? Because crippling debt. At the highest of its economic crisis, the price of a single loaf of bread reaches an average month's wage. Basically, if you're poor and worked a whole month, you could just barely afford a single loaf of bread. Unable to voice their concerns to the government, the people rise up and storm the king's palace, taking him off and his family as hostages. Filled with dreams of the Enlightenment books, they take charge, one Maximilien Robespierre leading them. Though a changing in government with peace proves too difficult, and fearing this call for revolution spreading from France, its allies, yes, its allies and its enemies attempt to invade and place the king in power once more. After several battles, and the king himself attempts to leave his own nation, the French people in power decide peace is no longer an option, and seeing the king as an actual traitor, Robespierre and his followers have the royal family executed in the most humane way they know, by cutting his head off by the guillotine. Fearful of invaders, hungry, and now without real leadership of a king, queen, the terror becomes the ruling force of the day. A stiff, unfair lawlessness overtakes France as the revolutionaries attempt to bring the people together, with the threat of beheading if they don't follow the rules. After years of terrible rule, the French would emerge strong, united by the death of Robespierre after this terror finally ends. And under new direction of one Napoleon Bonaparte, a short yet rather successful empire would soon form. A bloody, though stable nation of civil liberties and rights has actually been created. This has been a short recap or intro of the French Revolution. A very, very small event in world history, though a rather dramatic one for any who's part of Western civilization. Literally, days could be spent arguing the Enlightenment philosophies. Though, to keep it simple, this is where we will end it. I hope you have a solid day, and I hope you have learned something. Until next time, just remember, memes, memes, memes.